Alright, so a few years ago, I filmed myself injecting Imbril, biologic medication that people get prescribed who have pretty intense autoimmune diseases and things like that. And it now has like over 8,000 views and 90 plus comments. And one of the comments asked me to make a video about what it's like after having been on it for a while. So that's what this video is about. And I've just listed out some questions that I thought anyone who comes across this video would want to know if they're about to start taking medication like Imbril or Humira. So I've taken it for a while. I've got my thing here. This is just of Humira. I switched to Humira about 2 months ago. I had originally taken Imbril, and I want to say I took that for probably about a year and a half, and I noticed improvements in my symptoms probably like anywhere from 2 weeks to a month in. It felt like I was getting relief. So it was well worth it. I remember when I started Imbril, it felt pretty life-changing to just have some relief in that department. At that time, I was diagnosed with ankylosing spondylitis, and I was having a hard time just getting out of bed, just with pain and stiffness and all sorts of stuff. I mean, my kind of daily routine would be to get out of bed around 10 or 11 and then go to the gym and like start with a really slow walk on the treadmill and all this stuff just to get my body moving enough to where like I could have a normal day starting around like noon. And thankfully I had like this kind of freelance video career and I could sustain those hours, but it was not fun, and Imbril gave me a lot of space at the time. So I'll get back to these kind of Imbril Humira questions, but for me personally, I didn't like the fact that I was having to take this, even though I've now taken them for a little bit of time and I know they help. I don't think personally, like I would much rather not be taking them. I don't know what the long-term effects of taking a medication that has an impact on your immune system like this has over time. So to be honest with you, my personal take on this medication is if you're getting prescribed it, odds are you're in a spot where you're really hurting and you need some relief. And for me, it was worth it. I have not noticed any negative side effects from it, and the injection themselves do not hurt. It is like totally in your head. And I know that's frustrating to hear. I didn't want to hear that when I was taking it, but having taken it, I just know the feeling of like you don't want to inject yourself, all this stuff, and like it just feels like such a heavy thing. After you do it a couple times, I mean I don't even feel it, especially on Humira now. It takes me 2 seconds. I've been on a road trip before and brought it with me, and when we were filling up at a gas station, just had my little alcohol wipe and just did it in 2 seconds. Went in the gas station and put it in the little needle receptacle thing. So it's not an issue after you just get over that first hump. The first time it sucks, but the shot itself is not painful. So that's probably a big question for people, and it's worth it. That first one sucks just because it's scary, but man, after that you just really see this is not a big deal. One thing I'll add to that I've learned in my journey with Imbril and Humira is, again, I'm not a doctor, so check with your doctor for this stuff, but I will take it out of the fridge and leave it for a few hours just to let it get to room temperature, and that has helped a ton with some of the redness and swelling and itchiness that I used to get after injecting. I don't have any of that if I leave it out to room temperature for a few hours before I take it. And my doctor has told me that that's okay for the medication. So check with yours, but that worked really well for me for both Imbril and Humira. So how long did it actually take to work? About 2 weeks to a month for me. What are the biggest side effects? Like I said, I haven't noticed any negative side effects. Now, the positives that I've noticed is that my flares feel so much less intense and they feel like they're less full body. So I can only really speak from my experience with ankylosing spondylitis, but I could like feel a flare from my brain all the way like emanating throughout my body, and it would feel almost crippling. And now when flares happen, it doesn't feel like as full body crippling, like I said, it just feels like feels like flares that would be a 10 are now like a 5, and that's huge. Now, does it make me flare less? I think so, but as you'll probably see if you look around any other videos on my channel, I am more and more convinced that a lot of these flares are completely related to my own mental state and stress, And there's a ton of scientific evidence about how integrated the autoimmune system, or the immune system, I should say, is your perception of reality. And I know that that can get sounding kind of woo-woo to people, but man, there's so much scientific evidence of people actually being able to dive in and take more control of what we thought was an autonomic nervous system that we'd have no control over, and getting pretty intense benefits. So to that point, I notice when I'm in a stressful situation, generally that's when flares pop up. I don't think they're random. So I don't know necessarily that Imbril or Humira has completely stopped that, because other things outside of taking it are big factors in when and how I flare. But I will say it's made the flares a lot less intense. And maybe, on more trivial stuff, something that would have flared me if it was lighter, and a lighter flare, it wouldn't trigger it. So maybe it does help in that way. What's the injection process like? Definitely check out that Imbril video. I'll probably just make a new video for Humira. I switched to Humira because I had gone off Imbril cold turkey for a while. Like I said, in the back of my mind, I still am like not wanting to take this stuff. So I'm doing everything I can to figure out how to get myself healthy while I'm on it and have some relief. Because eventually my whole goal throughout my entire life will be to get myself in a spot where I'm healthy enough to not have to take this medication. Anyway, the story behind that is I went off Imbril kind of cold turkey after going through the functional medicine route and seeing a lot of awesome results from change of diet specifically and exercise. And I know those are kind of two common things everybody throws at you with the health stuff, but if you have something like this, man, it would be so worth your time to just go have a conversation with a functional medicine doctor near you and just kind of start to understand what that space is like and what they do. I had a huge positive impact from that. It didn't fix me, it didn't completely cure me, but it really got me a great start on my journey of feeling better without completely relying on just hardcore medications. So I was feeling so good for about a year and a half after. I mean, I went from being like crippled, like I was telling you, getting out of bed at like noon and warming up, to doing like CrossFit in the mornings. So the physical and diet thing were pretty dialed. I was eating way cleaner. I was not going and getting fast food anymore. I was trying my best to get high quality organic stuff. And it was awesome. So I just was like, I'm just going cold turkey, like stopped Imbril. And I had a really solid year and a half there. The one thing I was not managing or thinking about at all was my mental or emotional health. And so I had, some life stressors pop up and just massive flare. And I was reluctant to get back on the meds because I had such a good run and I thought I had conquered it and figured it out. And I probably lived in that flare for 6 months, maybe even a year. It just was like slow, and then just got to the point where, again, like it was hard for me to, I would stop tying my shoes because it was hard to take them on and off and painful. So finally, I, humbled myself and went back to my rheumatologist, and I was having some eye issues. And so she recommended trying Humira this time around, since there was a lot more evidence and trials, I guess, of Humira helping with the eye stuff as well and inflammation, because I also have a weird thing with my right eye and uveitis and all that stuff in addition to AS. And that's when I started Humira again about, probably 2 to 3 months ago now. And that, in addition with oral steroids like prednisone, are my kind of magic things. So between the Humira and like 2 rounds of prednisone, just oral tablets on tapers, that has gotten me out of that like 6-month, almost year-long flare, and I'm starting to feel back to being myself again and exercising and all that stuff. So I noticed the Humira helping a lot. What did I wish I knew before starting? So some of the things I wish I knew before starting, I haven't experienced that many negatives. I will say the financial part of it can be really stressful, and I don't know how insurance works and all that stuff, but I'm a freelancer and I have a pretty basic healthcare plan off Healthcare Marketplace, and I've been surprised at how well stuff has worked. Sometimes it takes a few phone calls and kind of feels frustrating, but both for Imbril and Humira, I don't have to pay anything for it. So I pay, a couple $100 a month for my marketplace health insurance, but, they work with Humira and Enbrel, and those companies then provide like payment cards for you where they cover the cost of the medication. So I have like a Humira card, and that covers it when I go to CVS where I go pick it up. So that's been nice. Like, I think that's something to really look into, because I think some people look into this and they're like, it's just too expensive, or I don't have a good enough healthcare plan. I would definitely look into that and just triple check, because you might be able to have access to this, or have a lot more access to this financially than you think. The other thing I wish I knew before starting was that it's just not that intense of a process, the actual injection. These pins they make are so easy. I mean, it's just like, not that I'm gonna do an instruction video right now, but like, you literally just take the caps off, press it down, click the button. I don't even feel these anymore when I do them. So I wish I knew it just wasn't that stressful. Another thing I wish I knew was, that this doesn't cure you. Now, I didn't expect that going into it, but like I said, my personal take on this is like, hey, this is just a safety net for me right now, because I haven't figured out how to navigate my flares enough. It works really well in that, but I don't want to live my life relying on these, and it helps me, but it's not like I just feel like a completely different person. I still have these kind of weird flares. There's little subtle things you can just kind of feel in your body. It still kind of feels there. So it's not a cure-all, but man, it has helped me a lot. How has this affected other areas of my life? I would say, man, it just helps by, you reduce your flare from a 10 to a 5, how life-changing that feels. Like, it just feels nice to just have a safety blanket. And honestly, it's a mental relief too when I feel a flare coming. The fact that I'm on Humira now, I just have a little bit more easiness of like, hey, this isn't gonna be crippling. Like, this might suck. Maybe this will last a week. Maybe this will last 2. I'm feeling a flare come on, but I'm on Humira. So far, I've never had like a crippling flare while on it. So that's nice. And, another thing you're probably wondering is like long-term concerns and risks. I don't know what those are. And to be honest, I'm not going to really do a deep dive on it. I'm just at a place personally where I will take anything to help my flares be more minimized, because they're massively impacting to me on my life. And so I really don't want to go down the rabbit hole of searching for all the possible things to worry about. Worrying for me, and if you're watching this video, I have a bet that it's probably similar for you. Worrying makes flares worse. And I've noticed, talking with more and more people as I interview people that have autoimmune conditions or other things that would require a medicine like this, we all share this common thing of like overthinkers, almost kind of OCD thought, and over worriers. And it's just so interesting to me that that's such a common thread throughout all these people that have this disease. They're just stressed out. Now, you can make a case that they're stressed out and overthinking all this stuff because they have it, but I actually really deep down believe that I was kind of that way first, and that this is kind of helps manifest these types of symptoms. So again, like, do your own thing, but I don't know what the long-term risks of this are. My goal is like, hey, I don't have anything else that helps me as much as Humira and Enbrel right now, and so I'm going to take it, and I'm going to do my best while I'm on it, and the extra relief I get to do whatever else I can find to make me feel better naturally in a more healthy way. So that's my goal with this, and I've promised my wife that I'll take Humira consistently for at least a year this time around before I start playing around with not taking it. And I think, when I'm ready, I'll be more upfront with my rheumatologist too and say, hey, I want to try to get off of this. Like, maybe we can start tapering this down instead of what I did last time, where I basically just stopped going to the rheumatologist. So advice I have for anybody that is taking this, man, one, do not let the vibe around it trick you into thinking that it's some super scary, painful, deep, dark thing that's gonna like, change your entire immune system and be this awful thing. It's not. I don't know why it like has that energy to it online, but it's not that big of a deal, is what I would say. And I mean that in the best way possible. And it hasn't been that big of a deal on the pain of the injection. It hasn't been that big of a deal on my finances, and it hasn't been that big of a deal. It's been a big deal in the way that it's helped my flares, but it also has not completely just cured me. So those would be my major takeaways from taking this after a while. Again, I did Imbril for probably about a year and a half, and then I've now done Humira for, going on 2, 3 months now, maybe 4. So that's kind of my whole spiel on Imbril and Humira and what it's actually like taking it now that I'm a couple years down the road. And I really recommend watching some of my other videos because I've just been on this journey for a very long time. I had my first flare up when I was in elementary school, and that led to all sorts of things. I've had, I had a cataract surgery, 2 glaucoma surgeries, vitrectomy surgery, if I'm saying that right, where they literally went in and took all the fluid out around my retina and replaced it. A deviated septum surgery. I had all that before I was even the age of 21. So I've just gone through the ringer with this stuff, and it's not gonna, it doesn't go away on its own. I think like I have to change. I have to change my habits. I have to change my thoughts. I have to change myself to just be rid of this thing. So I've been on a long journey, and I say that because, if you're still watching this video, the Humira and the Imbril is just an awesome kicking off point into that. Like I would really, I like my mindset on it personally now of like, hey, like I'm motivated to figure this out because I'd like to get off of these drugs as fast as possible, even though they're helping me and I'm grateful for them. And so, I definitely check out some of my other videos. A big game changer for me, like I mentioned before, was looking into functional medicine. And then after that, now functional medicine's great, but it didn't really cover a lot of the mental stuff, which was a big part of mine. So Dr. Sarno, he has a book called like Healing Back Pain, and there's another one like the Mind Body Prescription or something like that. Dr. Sarno, and his thing is TMS, Tension Myoneural Syndrome. Now, it's not another like diagnosis. I think that it's just a way to describe what people are experiencing, but he is a really renowned doctor that took the mind body stuff seriously and has a lot of evidence to support it. And those books were really game changing because he would talk about the common things he would see in patients, and I felt like I was reading about myself in those pages, and I think you might too if you check it out. So, again, functional medicine, Dr. Sarno, TMS, to just start really connecting this mind-body stuff and how your thoughts and your emotions are actually having a physical impact on your immune system. And then lately I've been getting really into this kind of mindset rabbit hole stuff, and I really enjoyed Dr. Joe Dispenza's work, and even invested a ton of money to go to one of his week-long workshops. And it's been a game changer for me, seriously. So that's my video about Imbril and Humira, these kind of biologics, and what it's done for me. Like I said, it's just been a really good game changer for me in terms of like reducing those flares. I feel fit again. Like I can go work out again. I feel mobile again. It doesn't feel like a full body thing anymore for me. And I think these medications are a big part of that. So, good luck to you if you're taking this. I'm sorry. I'm with you, and check out some other videos. Definitely, this is not a cure. Humira and Enbrel are not a cure. They're a way to get relief while we figure that out. So that's my video, and thanks for watching.